Action!
All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to another episode of All Talk with me, Mike All. Thanks for stepping in and watching us for a little bit. Today, I'm excited to have our guest, another Mike. It's always great to have another Mike. Very funny guy, actor, writer, and has his own one-man show called The AntiBoss. I'm not sure if he's still doing it or not, but we'll talk to him about that a little bit. Please say hello to Mike Maxwell. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me, man.
Definitely. So I wanted to start it off with, I brought up AntiBoss, but before I bring up AntiBoss, there's one thing, like I was saying before we started talking, like I was Googling you. One of the things I liked in your bio is you talked about how you got into stand-up and how on there, what I found was that you had written that you went, you did something, didn't go well, you went back, and then you started writing and you just focused on writing this set to go back. And you said at the time that your roommate helped you write it. Do you want to give any credit to your roommate? It doesn't say his or her name. It just says your roommate helped you write it.
Well, no, yeah, he didn't write the jokes. He facilitated me getting there. You know?
Okay.
You know, he definitely
helped me write.
Oh, no, he didn't pick up the pen or paper. His handwriting is terrible. And mine is not any better, but his insight and advice to me, even though he's not a comedian, was very good. And that was my fraternity brother, Rob Lennox. And I do give him credit all the time. And even when I have a new joke, I often run it by him if I'm on the fence, but most at this point now I kind of have a good gut feeling about what I like and what I don't like.
Yeah. So it's nice to have somebody to bounce that off of. Like I always thought my wife would be the one that I could try my jokes with. That is a big negative. Is it the same way in your
wives
house?
Want nothing to do with it.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Yeah, it's weird for me too, because like with my wife, with her being a psychologist, she takes everything literal. She's like, that just doesn't, it doesn't make sense. I'm like, it's a joke. So,
yeah.
So your one-man show, The AntiBoss, give me a rundown about that. How'd you come up with the idea and all of that?
Yeah, so it actually this August will be 5 years old. So the show is it's a mock new hire orientation. So what ends up happening is what the crowd doesn't know is when they walk in the room, the show starts. And when I end up pitching it to venues, I have almost as fun pitching it to them as I do performing it, because they don't really get it. Like they're like, okay, so who's opening? I go, nobody's opening. So it's like an Abbott and Costello. So we pretend that the audience is a group of new hires for a fictional company. I'm facilitating the training. I have been in corporate America for, sadly, I think 15 years. And I've gone through these trainings. I've led these trainings, and these trainings are garbage. So what I do is I've created a show that is about 75 to 90 minutes, and it is a explicit R-rated PowerPoint presentation about how everybody lied. The people who interviewed lied, the company lied, the managers lied, and we're all sitting in a pile of crap.
Is there a good deal of improv to it with the audience coming in, or do you have it written completely out?
So it has definitely, it's beyond. So like comedy fans will probably know that like Curb was like a skeleton improv, right? So they would script it and then they would improv it out. So I took out the elements. I had the beats and scenes of stuff I wanted to cover that goes through the trainings. I started to script it out, but then as I've done the show, I always allowed for improv spots, and a lot of my improv skills and riffing became consistent things that I put in the show. So then that got kind of the way Second City actually does a sketch review. They improv it, take the beats that are good, write it out, bump it up, elevate it, and then add to it with more improv. So so that's where it goes. Where it is right now, which is pretty refined for the most part, there are a number of improv moments. There's a lot of, I say it's lightly interactive. So there's a few times where people come on stage. There's times where I call out to the crowd and get them involved. I have them reciting things like that. Some very kind of, dry moments that I make less dry in the corporate environment. So
it's funny to hear you say rated R, because I don't know that you're known as like a clean comedian, but I know you as a clean comedian. Like you're not very rated R. You don't really drop. You're more of a storyteller in a lot of your jokes. You don't really have a whole lot of like setup punch. I mean, there's that in your stories, but every now and then you might drop a fuck for emphasis or something. But for the most part, you're pretty clean.
Yeah, no, I really don't swear during stand-up. And for the most part, my stand-up is marketed, since I do some corporate stuff, as clean as it is. But the AntiBoss is my space, where it's a character, an elevated cartoon of me and other managers, and I swear. and I swear a lot. And it's not that I don't want to swear in stand-up. It's just like when I'm at work, I really want to swear a lot. Like there's so many stupid moments where, you can't tell a customer how idiotic they are. You can't tell a coworker that you just told them 3 times over,
Right.
Or that you're onto their lie, right? So the first time I performed it, my character, when I got done with it, I was like, that was a little aggressive. So now he's a little bit more polished and clear of his emotions. But the first time I did it was like too therapeutic, so.
Yeah. Like you went home and you were just like, I need a bottle of wine and I'm just going to process through this.
Which the first time I did the show. So here's the thing though. Here's what's crazy about like the one-man show stuff is that like, there's no open mic. There's no open mic for that. So I put it up at the Fringe Festival in Chicago, which they've kind of stopped doing now for whatever reasons. But so I actually got lucked out, because sometimes Fringe festivals, they have random venues like on top of a restaurant, room or whatever, right? But I actually got a theater space in Chicago, and it was maybe like 40, 50 seats, and it was a true theater space. I was like, sweet, fantastic. And then they go, by the way, your first show is Thursday night or whatever it was, or Friday. We will have somebody from the Chicago Reader there, and they're going to be watching the shows for the evening. And I'm like, okay, cool. Nothing like
no pressure.
First run ever. Like, I'll be honest, man. I did that. I wasn't practicing in my basement. I went through like the PowerPoint slides, and I was not in character, but I was just kind of like quietly saying them in the house and knowing what comes through. But I was not doing a dress rehearsal in my house. So even when I went there and did tech, I'm going through stuff and I'm not really going all out, because I'm slightly still embarrassed about the concept of just trying something new in front of the tech people. So when it came to the opening night, it was the wettest paint I've had on a concept in a very long time.
Yeah, and I guess it went well because you continued doing it, and also didn't you do some writing for the Reader as well, right? Did that, or was it the Red Eye?
Red Eye. Okay. So I wrote for the Red Eye for about a year, and navigated 3 different editors, which I think is pretty good, because it's hard to. I think if you're not in with your editor, especially with that type of a newspaper, they can be like, yeah, no thanks. So, and now the Red Eye is more about just like where you can go eat and get a beer, rather than, at that time I was lucky. They're like, yeah, do you want to write a column? I'm like, yes. Like when I was in college, I did our newspaper. And I remember our professor who was in charge, they're like, what do you want to do for the newspaper? I go, I want to write a column. because even then I knew that like I want, like when I was a kid growing up, my folks would read the newspaper and I would always see them flip to the columns in the Sun Times and always like enjoy that the most. And it kind of like stuck to me that that's what people read the newspaper for whatever, but they enjoy this part of the newspaper, right? This is like their recreation of the newspaper. And so when I got to college, I was like, yeah, I want to write a column. And then the professor's like, we already have one columnist. I go, so?
Yeah, and
like, she's not nailing all the perspectives on campus here. Like, no.
Where'd you go to college?
Ripon College. It's in like central Wisconsin, East Central technically. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Between Oshkosh and Fond du Lac. So
one of the things that I noticed, I read 2 of your articles.
Ooh.
I read the one about not moving to the suburbs when you have kids.
Yeah.
And then I read the retraction 9 months later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about 9 months later, right?
Yeah.
that you were moving to the suburbs. So I would like to talk to you how you came to that decision and everything, but I do have one really big issue with the article.
Okay.
You're from Chicago, right? Or the Chicagoland area?
Yeah.
You grew up here. It's Sears Tower, and will always be Sears Tower, but you call it the Willis Tower in the article. Was that because you did it that, or did you have to? Did they want you to call it the Willis Tower? Or do you probably don't even know, but like I read that and I'm like, it's the Sears Tower.
I always call it the Sears Tower. So I think, I can't recall if they made me change it or if I was using it sarcastically to, because there were some times that I'm trolling readers, and so I just wanted to say things that I know would upset people like you. So,
well, if that was the case, you got me, because I was like the rest of the articles, because that's in like the 3rd paragraph, I think, or the second or 3rd paragraph. So the rest of the article, I'm like, I can't believe he said Willis Tower. Like,
I think I think for whatever reason they told me. Or I don't remember the exact situation, but I normally have called it Sears Tower anyway. So
yeah, like in regular conversation, you're gonna call it Sears Tower.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like I'm kind of a stickler for like mustard on hot dog, but now that I have 4 kids, like I lose that argument all the time. Like I'm not gonna argue. Like put ketchup on your hot dog, whatever. I don't care.
Just eat it.
Like just eat it. Just like you're eating, I don't care, because I'm not making something else. I'm not your short order cook. But like for me, the 2 sticklers are Sears Tower, and now the Hancock Tower technically isn't the Hancock anymore because they pulled all of their sponsorship and their name off of it. I don't know that it's been renamed, but it's going to be called something else now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but to me, it'll always be the Hancock.
Yeah.
So how difficult? Like in your article, you make it. It's light reading and it's easy and it's fun, but was it a difficult decision to pick up, move out of the city and head out to the burbs?
It was, it really was, because we tried so hard to not.
Yeah.
And if you don't know where you stand in society, try to buy a house.
Yeah.
And because if you think you're doing good, the bank will let you know. The bank will. No, you're not there yet. Do you have 30%? No. Who has 30% for? Who are these animals sitting on 20 grand? If not, anyway.
Exactly.
So we lived in. I still have my condo, so technically I'm a homeowner in Chicago still. All right. Yeah. I'm paying taxes, so settle down. So I'm up in the Old Irving area, so true 6 corners, not the Bucktown garbage. And so I like that neighborhood, and we're like, okay, if we stay up this way off the blue line up north, that's cool. Let's see what we can do. And then we could afford some of the houses, and so we started looking at them. And then I literally don't fit in the house. Like most basements are meant for like 5'8" Polish guys. And so like I was in the one on Addison. I love this one in Addison Street. I know exactly where it was. And then we're like, all right, let's go check out the basement. And then I went down like this. And the and the realtor, super good guy, love him. I'd refer him to people. He goes, well, some people dig down the basement, and we're like, no, no, I'm not
I
trying
don't
to
have 30%. What are you talking about?
like
Like,
trying to escape my house. Like, no. So whenever we would go looking at a house that was in our price range, and again, we were in that northwest side because that's kind of the pocket that we thought we could afford or whatever. Um, and I'd go, first things first, let's just try the basement. And I go, I don't even want to see the rest of the place, and if I don't fit in it. And so we were in like Irving Park Road north,
mm-hmm.
and then we just started to go further and further and further. The map kept taking us, and then a lot of people will be like, well, let's try Edison Park because at least technically you're in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Edison Park is like pretty expensive actually, and hard to get into. It's like a fraternity just for teachers and cops, and then you try to save grace with Park Ridge, and then we couldn't find something there. So then accidentally my wife just wagons west, and we just went all the way out.
Yeah.
And found where we are now. So yeah, it was like, it wasn't, it's like when I still hope to get back into a major city and have that be the end of my adult life. But once we realized we needed just a little bit more space for the kid, then we're like, all right, let's see what we can do. And then we realized we couldn't afford the city, and then we weren't abandoning it. We were priced out.
Right. Exactly. One of my friends out on the East Coast lived in New York, was a New Yorker, tried and true entire life. I grew up in the city, lived in the city, had kids, and moved out to the burbs in New Jersey. And I asked him one time, I'm like, wasn't that hard? Like, I mean, you are city through and through. And he goes, it wasn't hard because we realized we were paying for the city, but we weren't using any of the stuff that the city offers.
Yep.
Like, so if we're not using it, then why are we paying for it? And I was like, right. Okay, I get that. That makes sense, like.
Yeah. And we weren't really hitting it, even though my mom gave us like passes and stuff. We would go to museums periodically and stuff like that, but we wouldn't go into the belly of the city all the time. And you find that you're in your comfort zone wherever you live in the city. Like, you really stick to your spot. Like, it's not as much exploring as it was when you're in your 20s or whatever. So
right. Yeah, I mean, we're still in the city. We enjoy it, but we lucked out. Like, so we're renting, but we got a 3-bedroom, 3-bath duplex down, 3,600 square foot condo that we're renting. Like, that makes it easy, to have, like, because like we've lived in places before where you couldn't fart and get away from it, let alone have an argument and then with your wife and then have somewhere to go, right? Like, like I know we were just fighting, but I'm going to sit 5 feet over here in this chair and ignore you. Like, it doesn't work, right? So like, I get it, but you got a nice yard and all that stuff now. It's nice out there.
Yeah, I mean, when we moved in, the house needed work. Part of what needed work was the yard. It actually took about like 8 months to get the yard. Like, there was so much garbage trees in it. We cut them down, got rid of them. We had to plow out like 60 stumps.
Wow.
So, and I got my yard down to dirt and reseeded.
You enjoy that kind of stuff?
There's a level of pride in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
That's good. So before we move on to the last segment, I have one more I have a task for you.
Sure.
I'm going to challenge you to something that my wife hasn't been able to convince me to do yet. I know you've been doing a live show with Peter Daniel, who is absolutely hysterical. Actually, I'm going to reach out to see if he would love to be on the show. I love Peter. Where you're reviewing episodes of Dead to Me.
Yes.
My wife has tried everything to convince me to get me to watch it, and I haven't. Convince me to watch Dead to Me.
Okay. All right. So what was the last show that you and your wife watched together?
That we watched together. Wow. It's been a while. Okay. We watched some of the stuff in the past that we watched together was like Parks and Recs, The Office. We watched that kind of stuff. We were big fans of Psych, big fans of Monk. Um, we just don't sit down and watch a whole lot of TV together anymore. Trying to think what other ones along that. Yeah, that's it. We watch a lot of documentaries together. That's
Sure.
mainly what we watch.
I get it. You're trying to boost your image. Got it. Documentaries. Whatever. Please. Please. I had a salad for lunch today. Guess what? We're both heroes. So, okay. Dead to Me is a show that is solid. It's a solid show. It does touch a little bit on soapy stuff. Now, so for example, it's easy for me to watch it because my wife and I have watched these kind of dramedy, guilty pleasure shows in the past. I mean, you could name a couple CW favorites and I might be there with you. But so I started watching it because I like Christina Applegate and wanted to see her do something different than what we all know her for from the 80s.
Sure. Yeah.
And she actually does a really good job as the mom in the story. And then the actress that's with her was in a TV show on Netflix called Bloodline about a corrupt family in the Florida Keys. And I liked her in that. So I gave the show a shot based off the two actresses.
Yeah.
The story itself is decent. It's a little mystery. It's a little quirky, but
she describes it as dark.
It can be.
Be.
There's darker stuff out there. I mean, like if you watch Breaking Bad, that's not dark at all compared to Breaking Bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was a big Breaking Bad fan, and she couldn't watch it, and she couldn't watch that, or she couldn't watch Ozark. So she has like, she's like, I can't watch people doing harm to themselves. Sort of like with Breaking Bad, like selling meth or doing meth. She's like, I can't watch that type of shit. So.
Sure. Do you want? Okay, so here's the pitch. Husband to husband. Like I find the show fine. I enjoy the show. It's a compromise show, right?
Okay.
Okay. So, like I've picked some shows out that like she's like, okay, fine, and this is one I'm like, okay, fine, and it's actually pretty okay. So like, it was not my wife's idea to start watching Mr. Robot, but I hooked her, and I was like, hey, here's good. So we started watching it, and she goes, okay, and then like, hey, you want to watch Dead to Me? And she's like, oh yeah, so it's a balance, right?
Yeah, it is a balance. It's a true balance. A lot of the reasons we don't watch TV together anymore is like it's, we got online at 8:30 and she was going to bed. Like I like to go to bed at 11. Yeah. She goes to bed at 8:30, gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So no thanks. I can't. 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Dude, my kids wake me up by 5:30. So.
Are you really?
Yeah.
So the two older ones, are they sleeping through the night?
They sleep through, but I have not set an alarm in 5 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Like it used to be hilariously bad where he would just scream dad from the other room. But now he'll just walk up to me and be like, hey, can we go downstairs? And I'll be like, and I'll just see what time it is. I go, no. If it's in the realm of 5:30 to 6 o'clock, I'm like, fine, pick your battles. Let's go.
Yeah, your oldest is about to be 6. So my oldest is 10. I remember my favorite thing when my oldest turned 6 was she could start, like, we at least trusted her to like pour a bowl of cereal or make a waffle in the toaster without like killing herself or burning the house down. And that was a game changer. Like, and then when she turned 8 was about the time that we could start letting her make breakfast for like her little sister. And that was just like, oh man, this is amazing. Like I wasn't,
we're getting there.
Yeah, I'm not going to say like I was like after they woke me up that I was sleeping great. There's still that little bit of, oh my God, please, like I'm just waiting for the smoke alarm to go off.
Yeah.
But all right, I like the idea of it being a compromise show, so I think I'll give it a shot with her.
Look,
So
if you have any experience watching The Last Dance with your wife, you owe her.
I do have experience watching The Last Dance with her. But this is one of the amazing things about my wife as I try and earn more points. When she was pregnant with the twins, she ended up having to spend like a ton of time in bed, right?
Yeah.
She watched every 30 for 30 documentary that there was
Oh,
that ESPN had.
cool.
She enjoys that kind of stuff. So it'd be crazy. Like me and some buddies would be sitting around talking about like, you know, who's the best quarterback at what time. And then she would pop in with like, what are you talking about? Like the 1984 draft with like Marino and Elway. And she'd like start breaking everything down. I'm like, oh, you're
She
awesome.
became a savant because of her bed rest.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. But she put that time to good use. But she does come down and watch Last Dance with me. Um, she enjoys it, but not near as much as I do.
Right.
So
Yep.
yeah, all right. I'll give it a shot. Well, but that means I can't watch you and Peter on. And who is it? It's you, Peter, Thomas Bottoms.
Alexa and Rudy Ruiz.
Yeah.
Rudy wasn't
Like,
on yesterday. Peter's doing it right now, and I was just like, I thought we were alternating nights. My bad.
well, I'll let you go here in a minute if you want to jump back on. We're going to do this quick segment called Ambushed, where I have no idea what these, I don't want to say topics because they're not really topics, they're just words.
Got it. Your kid's Tourette's. Got it.
Exactly. They might be spelled right, they might not.
Sure.
So, speaking of, the first one is watermelon. Watermelon. Are you a fan of the watermelon?
I love watermelon.
Now, you like the watermelon. Someone gives you an offshoot piece of watermelon, you're at a party, there's watermelon, you're like, great. Do you like a watermelon drink or a watermelon candy though?
Okay, so Watermelon Jolly Rancher is, vintage childhood. So that is good. My wife recently picked up a bottle of watermelon cucumber or something. Anyway, Trader Joe's doesn't always hit. And so
Right.
there's this watermelon juice with cucumber in it. And first she said watermelon juice. I go, what? That's excessive. Watermelon's fine by itself. Just bite it. There's the juice.
Yeah,
Anyway,
exactly.
and then she's like, oh, and there's cucumber too. I go, what? She goes, do you want any? I go, I don't think so.
No,
And so,
no. I enjoy cucumber. I enjoy watermelon, but I don't know about the two of them together.
yeah, no.
Yeah, apparently another good combination is watermelon and basil. Like apparently those go
Yeah,
together well.
yeah.
And then I had at a party one time someone had cubes of watermelon with feta and like a balsamic vinegar on it.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. I mean, it was really just the watermelon really just felt like a shuttle for the balsamic vinegar and the feta. Like
Yeah.
balsamic so strong and so is feta, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was
I
solid.
enjoy, like, we have watermelon quite a bit during the summer. I enjoy trying to figure out the best way to cut it. And it always looks like I'm carving like Magneto's helmet into I shave it off the sides. I do like these laterals, and then it just looks like the big M right there. And then
I always take the top off first and then try and go down the sides, but then I always miss, and I'm always like having to go back and try and just like razor thin shave like just that last piece of white, and then you end up taking too much. You're like, well, that was a waste, so you end up eating it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's see what we got in here as well. Oh wow. Homeschooling, and I'm impressed that they spelled it right.
Nice.
Have you been doing homeschooling? You and the wife been doing the homeschooling?
So the kids are like preschool age. So the lessons they give like a pack of things for a month with numbers and letters to work on, and then we have an activity book. So we're working on it. I actually was happy that today I didn't have to pull teeth, and my kid's book is right here next to me. He brought it over and wanted me to help him. I was like, oh, that's fantastic. It doesn't happen every day. So I do, like, I mean, I remember how I learned, and I didn't always learn out of a book. So I normally will have like these like breakout like asides where like clearly I'm delivering facts that are very educational in the middle of a moment. Like,
Yeah.
and that is why that happens. And my wife is like, oh my God, you're so ridiculous. Like, it's like the more you know star comes shooting across.
I've had, so my fourth grader is my oldest. She's in fractions now. And there's been a couple of times where she's been like, hey, what is this? And I'm like, no, I'm not sure. Why don't you move on to the next one? I get my phone out and I'm like, oh yeah, so that is, like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty good, like when I'm measuring and I'm looking at a tape measure and I go, okay,
Right.
that's 3/8, that's 5, whatever, or if I'm working on something and I know I can look at it and but it's completely different when I'm like trying to add them together and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been a little rough on me too, because I was never a fan of school. I didn't like school. I didn't like going to school. I wasn't, particularly good at it. And now here I am trying to teach I'm not really teaching, but trying to help them out and give them advice and that kind of stuff. It's been pretty challenging, but it's been good for me too, because I'm like, oh, okay, I'm kind of, I'm learning fractions again, which is, not a bad thing to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, I think we got one more in here. Let's see what this is. Oh, dishes. That one probably came tonight because I was like, you guys need to do the dishes. You need to do the dishes. It's time to do the dishes. Oh,
I feel like there's definitely a message here for you.
I know, right? I think so. They want more watermelon, less homeschooling, and not to do the dishes. That's kind of what I'm taking away from tonight.
These are our demands. Please respond. We will make your life hell.
Exactly. Please slide this back underneath the door when you're done.
Yeah.
Oh well. Well, hey man, thanks for joining me and hanging out and talking for a little bit. I know it's kind of crazy, so it's good getting caught up with you. And is there anything coming up down the road that's hopefully past the point of quarantine that you need to plug? That you got some shows coming up that haven't been canceled yet?
There's an online show Monday. I'm doing some virtual corporate things next week. And then supposedly I'm out in Iowa in June or July. And then I'll be in La Crosse at Piggy's in October.
Nice.
It's my first time headlining there. I've been there for a few years, and I was like, hey, can I headline? He's like, yeah. And then this happened, and he goes, why don't we move you? And I go, let's do October. Because I don't mind the drive to La Crosse. I just don't want it in the winter.
Yeah, so. No thanks. Yeah. No, I do not want to drive up there during the winter at all. I've been up there a couple of times during the winter, and it's like, oh, this should be a 2-hour drive. Let's leave 4 hours early.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, thanks for joining me. It was good catching up. Hope you and the family stay healthy and safe, and we'll talk again soon, I hope.
All right, man. Thanks. That's great. Take care.
Yeah, take care.